Do you love
automation and artificial intelligence?
Do you live
And breathe digital technology?
Do you have
Business savvy in your DNA? Nikki Gonzalez does. And she's a host of the Creators Lounge.
The Creators Lounge is proud to welcome HARTING.
Welcome back to the Creators Lounge. We are here with HARTING. This is not your first time, or your company's first time in the Creators Lounge,
No,
but
it is
welcome.
not.
And we have Emily Roth with us today.
Hi. Thanks
How
for
are
having
you?
me.
Is this your first time at IMTS?
This is not. This is my second time at IMTS.
Okay.
So I've broken in the shoes, right? I've done the walk before, but it's always impressive.
It's bigger and better, right?
Every time.
It's insane. Like, this is like day 3, and I said this in the early interview, but I keep saying it. Like, it is just still popping outside. People are there's crazy amounts of people on the floor. I love that you're matching the Creators Lounge vibe here with the yellow.
Yeah, I'd like to say it was intentional, but that HARTING brand is just strong right now.
It very, very, very much is, and we haven't been able to not talk about you guys in most of our recaps.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, and we love your approach of, you know what, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but like connectors I kind of think of them as almost like an underdog, because you're just not one of the big flashy, sexy things on the outside of, you know, these machines, but you're in every single one of them here.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of what we're hearing right now. We don't have giant robots, you know, tossing around cars, but we are on the robot, so I can at least say that.
So you guys have gotten really creative in getting the word out there, and we're all, I mean, it shows that it works, because you've got us all excited about connectors.
Love to hear it.
So I would love to start by asking you just to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, and how did you get to be passionate about connectors?
Yeah. So my current role at HARTING is I'm an industry segment manager. So I do market development.
Okay.
I started out in systems engineering to really understand product design and process improvement. And originally, I started out as an intern actually at HARTING. So I worked in a couple different teams, kind of got my feet wet, and then the people just kept bringing me back for more and more.
Yeah.
Which I've loved working with the team. So now I get to work with the customers for that process improvement and product design instead. So I kind of use the connectors as my way of getting in.
Yeah.
But I really get to climb all over their machines and their process to see what I can do to help. I really like it.
Well, I bet that systems engineering background really helps both relate to your customers, right? And then kind of have that big picture.
Yeah, 100%.
While you also can micro focus in on the connectors. But connectors are more complex than I think most of us think of most of the time.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about modular connectors. That seems to be kind of your specialty and one of the things that you excel at, one of your innovative things in the market.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about what is modularization in connectors and why does it matter?
So for us, modularity means that you're able to consistently apply either a good standard solution and really have like a complex solution for whatever your particular application is. But it also can mean that if you have those kind of one-off projects, you're able to really work with that. So for us, that means that we have connectors that we're able to swap out those interconnection points, right? In the hood and housing is what we call it for our connectors. So if it's signal, power, data, pneumatics, we have a lot of different kind of applications. We get some niche things that customers consistently can kind of customize and work on. That's where that modularity really comes in for the connectors. So I like it because you get to know the customers, you know that they're going to ask for certain questions and they get the same environments, but then every once in a while they throw you something new and interesting, and that's when my fun job kind of gets going.
Yeah, it keeps your interest, I'm sure. And that's one of the things I loved about being in like field sales and engineering is every application on your customer side is different. So although maybe you work with the same technology and you get to be passionate about that, you get to see how it gets applied everywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes they surprise you too.
Yeah.
To your point, if you're in your hard hat on like a site, all of a sudden you're learning about a completely different issue you've never seen before, or a completely different way to kind of design in those connectors. It's really interesting what you see on the fields.
What do you see in the industry that really says to you guys at HARTING that, hey, now is the time to really go out and force and tell people that this modularization is the thing that you need to jump on? If you haven't been connectorizing one, you got to do that. But if you just think of connectors as this plain old boring, at the end of my process, now I got to find the connector, right?
Yeah.
Why is it time to change that perception, and how do you guys help with that?
I think I always say that I understand connectors sometimes, to your point, are later in the process. That's when they start to integrate them. But I always say if you can bring them in early, it really changes the way that you're designing your machines for those end users. So a lot of times when I'm talking to the equipment manufacturers, I think they're thinking about how to get something in quickly, and so they don't bring us in sooner. But we're able to change the way they're designing designing their products, so they're able to do those, not only the manufacturing for their products, but the installation a lot faster. That's kind of where modularity is really coming in, and to your point, just connectorization in general. If you can change the way that you're thinking about your design on your end customers can also change it on their end. So there's a whole kind of ripple effect if we're able to get into that conversation much earlier.
Right.
Which I always appreciate.
Let's dive more into that right after a quick break.
You are watching The Creators Lounge. Gain insights as our hosts talk to expert guests about key industry topics. Come see the action live on the trade show floor. Visit booth 338 600. See you at The Creators Lounge.
Okay, so now that we know what modularity is in connectors, and that we probably should be thinking about it earlier than we thought, what are some of the main benefits that companies get from, changing their approach to connectors and thinking about them a little bit more as an integral part of their product?
I think a lot of companies that we're talking to right now, they want things to be coming out faster, but they also want it to be coming out smarter, right? So if they're able to kind of supply something that is coming out in a way that they're able to be a little bit more flexible with how it's being designed in, and you're able to move it around based off of that data that you're getting back from those pieces of equipment, that's where that really comes in. So modularity allows you to be really flexible, and then also just a really secure choice for those end users, right? They know they're able to get that maintenance in a lot faster, and they're able to be a lot more preventative in some of the issues that might come with their job.
Yeah.
They're able to really be able to adapt to their surroundings. A lot of the people that I'm talking to on the show floor right now are actually maintenance engineers, which I love to talk about because they're touching our connectors more than anyone.
Yeah.
So they have really good impact on the way that we kind of look at our designs and the way we're able to give suggestions to the customers that we talk with.
That's really cool. So from kind of the OEM perspective, they're the ones obviously designing it into their machines.
Yeah.
Looking at that faster design cycle.
Yep.
Probably some cost savings, some space savings.
Yeah.
From the end user standpoint, like you said, you mentioned the maintenance engineer, and I love
Yeah.
that you bring that up, because it's one thing to buy a sophisticated piece of equipment. It's another thing to keep it running and to be able to maintain it, be able to make changes, be able
Right.
to be flexible to adapt that piece of equipment as
Right.
as your business grows, hopefully.
Yeah.
What are the main benefits, I would say, for the end users? And can you dive a little bit more into maybe how that affects the workforce challenges? Because that's, the main themes that we hear about here all the time are how do we attract more people into the industry because we have a shortage, and then how do we retain them and make them actually interested in these jobs? And, right off the bat, I wouldn't ask necessarily how do connectors help the workforce, but systems thinking, systems engineering, they touch, every single piece of decisions that goes into these companies affect the workforce. So you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. It's a process whenever you're doing the design, but also a process for maintenance, like you said. So if you're able to put in connectors in a way that you're able to move things around on the warehouse floor, for example, much faster with lower downtime, but also if you're able to make sure that it's ergonomic for those maintenance people, you're keeping those technicians happy at your company. You're not dealing with labor shortages because people are leaving because they feel like they're not being listened to in the way they're designing, or they're working with their pieces of equipment. You want to make sure that your things are easy to use. So that's piece of equipment, but it's also the components. It's anything from the interfaces that they're dealing with every day, or when they're doing the swap outs for pieces of equipment or maintenance. You want to keep your techs happy, and I think that even components in those smaller pieces that maybe people don't think of right away can sometimes be a huge part of that.
I'm also thinking, the connectivity is getting a lot more complex. I used to think, you just need to wire something up, right? You're wiring power.
Right.
But you're not just wiring power anymore.
Right.
You're wiring all kinds of data.
Yep.
These are, in many cases, like pretty complex connectors that are combining lots of different things together.
Yeah.
And we talk about a lot of AI, right? Collecting a lot of data. Do you see the need for connectors increasing exponentially, or just kind of along with that transformation, that digital transformation?
Yeah, I think if you want digital transformation, you have to be able to not only get that data to be actually collected on the floor, but you have to be able to receive it somewhere. There's a hub that has to make decisions based off that data. It's a lot of where my systems engineering background really comes into play. If you're not doing something with the data, then you're not getting your money's worth when you're putting those sensors and monitoring out.
Yeah.
So what you're doing with that and making sure that you have that secure connection, you're able to make changes on your designs based off of what you're getting back. I mean, that's really critical to get that ROI.
And as digitalization, matures, people don't want to swap out and scrap their old equipment, right?
No.
They want to add more sensing. They want to add more intelligence. So you mentioned earlier about the modularity, being able to kind of leave even blanks in your system. If you have a thought, we want to integrate this data into the system, but not quite yet, or we want to retrofit an older machine, is that use cases that you're seeing?
Yeah, we see a lot of retrofitting in our industry. I mean, I think in the machinery space, but all over. If you think about it, you want to be really future-proofing your designs. And so sometimes that's even on the components, sometimes it's on the equipments. You know that if you're doing your job right, you're going to be expanding, you're going to be growing, and hopefully adapting with that. So having kind of what we call dummy modules, it's those blank inserts, that's a really big part of it. They don't do anything now, but if you're able to make sure that you're not swapping out larger pieces of equipment because you didn't think of that when you were designing, that's a really big part of what we're hoping to kind of walk through with customers.
I see that a lot, like electrical panels, you want to leave room for future growth, or in, valve terminals, right? You leave blanks in case you need to add more valves later. Duh, why not do that with connectors?
Right, exactly.
Well, okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk a little bit more nuts and bolts and specifics, how to get started with this and where the resources are.
Awesome.
We'll be right back.
Additive manufacturing has grown from a niche prototype building process to a production-ready technology enabling new opportunities. It's a manufacturing tool that no one should be without. Building on its annual flagship event in Frankfurt, Germany, Formnext is bringing the most comprehensive, best-in-class additive manufacturing trade show to the United States at Formnext Chicago in 2025.
In my opinion, Formnext is the most important additive show in the world. We go to Formnext in order to find new products to offer to our customers and to get a good pulse of how the industry is doing.
You'll find buyers and sellers there. You're finding and talking to people that are looking for additive manufacturing solutions. And it's everywhere from people who have never worked with additive before to people who have been in working with the technology for a long time and looking kind of for the latest and greatest.
Formnext, the entire ecosystem of industrial additive manufacturing in one place. Join us for the inaugural Formnext Chicago in 2025. Discover more at formnextchicago.com.
And we're back, and we have a surprise guest. Not really surprised, but Amanda Marks, who gracefully puts all of this together and has brought the fun into marketing connectors. Thank you for joining us, Amanda.
Thank you for having me, letting me jump in.
Can you show the audience your shoes? I've been promised one day to get a pair of these. I'm going to put it on camera.
We love some Harding Golds.
Yes, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how, if somebody wants to buy these connectors, there's a whole back and forth and design cycle.
Yes.
And I'm guessing there may not be a ton of engineers out there that specialize in the connector portion of what they do. And I know you guys are really innovating on this as well, not just the product itself, but how to approach the product, how to figure out the product, how to get it supported. Can we talk a little bit about that? What kind of tools and things are you guys working on that allow engineers to get more excited and more nerdy about working with the connectors?
Yes, more excited, more nerdy, and just help them get started, because we know, there's a lot of super smart system engineers out there designing many incredible things, but they're often and typically not connectivity experts, and that's okay. We have a lot of those at Harding.
That's what they got you for.
Right? Yes, and we do have teams of application engineers and people. If they want to talk to someone, we're here to talk on the phone or chat. But we've been evolving digitization in the design cycle too, as we think about how do people want to get started.
A lot of people don't want to call you.
A lot of people don't, and I get that. I don't want to do that either. So HARTING.com is a resource that we've been putting a ton of additional energy into revamping and relaunching. And it's really, I would say, it's been core to who HARTING is for a long time, though, embracing all things digitization from the way we work, from the way we know our customers want to work, and really bringing that into the design process for a connector. So I want to make sure everyone knows that HARTING.com is a great resource to start on, and some of the great tools that are available there once you want to go to learn a little bit more, and then really to dive into the design process can all happen online. So we've got amazing configurators that allow an engineer to think through, like there's dozens and dozens of filters depending on maybe the current and voltage requirements of your system, how many pins you might need, what's the environment to help you narrow in on like the IP rating that you might need. And then there's a ton of great tools around saving different configurations, building wish lists if you're trying to determine, different connector options. There's so much that you can do to get started designing on your own. And then our engineers are there to chat with you, to talk on the phone if that's what you're looking for. A ton of resources available.
What have you found are some of the trends? At what point, I would say just from my perspective and people that I know that are younger than me, right, millennials, and I can't speak for Gen X, but I mean Gen Z, I'm like the boomer talking about the millennial when, I talk about Gen Z. But I know me and my sister and like some of my friends, like we don't want to talk to a person. We want to get all our ducks in a row. We want to do our research. We don't want to sound dumb and be taken advantage of when we call. But we do want to call sometimes. Do you find that people do it largely on their own and then just make the purchase? Or they go through some of that, feel confident that they know the right questions to ask, and then they do reach out to you guys and, kind of work through that together?
I would say there's definitely a mix. And so the approach that we are taking is, anywhere, anytime. We want to be any channel, however they want to interact.
I love that.
We have that online. We have that with our folks. Someone can actually get like halfway through their configuration and then feel like, I think I did 90% of it, but I would like a HARTING engineer to check this for me. We can jump into that, 70% done configuration and then talk them through the last step or make recommendations to swap things out. We do that all the time. We also have a phenomenal distribution network. And so if you are, for engineers out there that like to buy through distribution, or if you're prototyping and you're a big Mauser DigiKey kind of fan. They're great partners of ours. Our configurators are connected to their sites. Their inventory levels are connected to our site. So we know not everybody's going to want to work directly with us. There's great engineers at all of the distributor partners as well that can aid our customers as they go through that.
You speak to my heart so much with this, because
we just want to make it easy.
We have such a generational gap in how people like to do business and how people like to buy, and it's not one size fits all. But you can't go completely online and say, well, that's just how we do it now. It's better. Because some people, they really have a great relationship with that local distributor, or they have that account set up and they don't want to put their credit card in another place. And then some people, like my dad, they order everything from Mauser because the warehouse is super close to us and we can pay ground and get it tomorrow. So you never know kind of what motivations are behind how someone likes to shop.
How someone likes to design, because it's really more than shopping.
That's true.
You're doing this for your job, and depending on the scale of what you're designing, it could be a hugely critical thing, and it's generational, and it's what you're comfortable with. So the distributors I mentioned are these big online players, but there's we have great distributors with brick and mortar branches and sales folks in the distributors that know HARTING.
They're about to get great e-commerce too.
And yes, I know, we're all working on that as well. But
everybody's helping uplift the whole industry kind of up into this, hopefully, where you can be in all the places in the ways that your customers want you to be. And especially for a product like HARTING, where you're, just not so front and center out and obvious. You kind of want to be in all those places where people might think of connectors. And I think that that's wonderful. And actually connecting that supply chain so customers can see, it is in the warehouse, right? Or it's something, and sometimes that's the trade-off, right? You buy something that you can get quickly, because you need that right now, and you may be okay with like over-speccing a little because you just need it now.
Yep.
And then in the long run, if you're, placing huge production orders, of course you would work more closely with the vendor.
Sure. Yeah.
How about physically testing stuff out? Engineers love to, touch things.
Very
Maybe
tactile.
throw them on the floor or
Right.
run them over with something. Can people get samples when they work with you?
Yeah, I think that to your point, a lot of, especially the young engineers who are not as familiar maybe,
Yeah.
they really like to be very tactile with the samples. A lot of what we're trying to work on right now is how can we get the product to them in a way that they can talk to us about it, or if they're Gen Z like me, maybe they don't want to be talked to for a little bit when they're touching the product.
Yeah, right?
And that definitely is a large
Don't
part of
look
what
me
we're
in
doing.
the eye while I'm looking at this. Just give me some time.
Let me play with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
now I know who to go to with my Gen Z questions. I never like to ask people how
I'm
old
your
they are.
resource.
Yes.
Well, is there anything, we're up on time, but I'd love to, if there's any one major point you feel like we didn't hit, let's hit it, and then we got to peace out, because there's so much going on at the show. I know you guys got to run, we got to
There's a ton
run.
going on.
You got a booth, though, where people can come touch all the stuff, right?
Absolutely, yes. Come touch all these modular connectors. See how you can build a connector like Lego and decide all of the inserts that you might want. It's a lot of fun to get hands-on with.
100%.
Absolutely, and I'd highly suggest that you connect with these ladies on LinkedIn. We're going to be doing a lot more collaborations. They, do some stuff with Chris, and we'll do demos. So there's a lot more content to come from IMTS Plus, from the Creators Lounge over the next 2 years leading up to the next IMTS. So connect with us, call us, find us online, send us a letter, however you like to do it. We want to talk about connectors. These are the folks to do it with. So thank you guys so much for joining us in the Creators Lounge today.
Awesome.
Thanks
so
for
much
having
fun.
us.
Thank you, Nikki.
We'll be right back for another segment. Bye, guys.